What's the number one thing, the best thing, and the worst thing about having a business partner, Allan?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, easy question. Best thing, he is the smartest person I've ever met. And he also has the biggest heart out of anybody I've ever met. It's not close. You might not think it based on his genius, but he is the most heart-driven human you'll ever meet. He is also a giant pain in the ass because he's so focused on growth that he wants to help me grow as much as I can possibly grow based on what I've told him. So he is always there saying, hey, Kev, if you really want what you say you want, you probably shouldn't do this. This probably isn't optimal. It's probably not the most aligned. For some people, that is a giant pain in the ass because they tell you they want something and they don't actually want it. So you become that person saying like, hey, do you really want to order a Grubhub when you could save $15 and just get food yourself or cook? So yeah, it's the upside of my life is infinitely better because of him and all he's done for me. But it also is at times a pain in the butt looking at all of your weaknesses and mistakes that you're making.
Damn.
Roll the intro.
Well, Kevin, it's great to have you, as we said. So guys, Kevin Palmieri, am I saying it correctly? Palmieri?
Yes, yep.
Perfect. Is the CFO, founder, co-host of Peak Performance, podcast coach. He transformed his life after hitting rock bottom in his mid-20s, despite having outward success. Facing severe anxiety and depression, he dedicated himself to holistic self-improvement, which led him to hosting a globally impactful podcast with over 1,000 episodes. That is an amazing amount, by the way. It's crazy when I saw that number on your YouTube channel.
1717 as of today, I think.
Wow.
And building a multi-six-figure business. Palmieri has delivered numerous speeches, trainings, and coaching sessions worldwide, focusing on topics such as consistency, commitment, mindset, and overcoming limiting beliefs. He advocates a hard-driven yet no-nonsense approach to self-improvement, aiming to help others reach their next level. So, Kevin, we've met Allan. Now we're meeting you.
Yes.
What do you think is the main contrast between you two?
Allan is 10 out of 10 logically driven. I am someone who is far more emotionally driven. I am probably stronger when it comes to emotional intelligence. He is far stronger when it comes to logical, short and long-term decision making. Yeah. I also like to get weird. Allan quit drinking a long time ago. He doesn't do like anything negative. Caffeine's probably his biggest vice. I just went to Scotland a couple weeks ago. I came back with some really nice whiskey. I'll have myself a whiskey this Saturday while I'm watching UFC. My ultimate goal is to be the most extraordinary regular dude you've ever met. Allan's ultimate goal is to maximize his potential for every second of every minute of every hour of every day. That just ain't me. I'm not wired that way.
Well, fair enough. All right. Ali, what do you think?
Yeah, when I ask you guys about journaling, so right here I have a journal. And I know you guys have your own journal. Mm-hmm. What was the discussion about making you guys a journal, and what do you recommend for people to journal, an average person, to journal every single day to improve their lives?
Yeah. The conversation was, what is something that we would actually use? What is something that, and Allan has used it every single day. I don't use it as much as Allan does, transparently, because I have my own thing going on. But it started from that. What is something that we would actually use every day that we know would benefit our community every day? And here's the thing. Over time, we've realized that the most sustainable action is probably the best action for you, especially if you're starting out. So I would say the best way to journal every day is do the least amount that will actually make you feel like you're making progress. It might be, here are the top 3 things. These are the 3 things that I learned today or I learned yesterday. That might be it. Awesome. And then maybe eventually you get to, these are the top 3 things I learned, and these are 2 things I'm grateful for. Cool. And then it might be, this is 1 thing I learned about the world, and this is 1 thing I learned about myself. I think the behavior is more important than the perfection of the behavior. And I think we get caught in, well, I didn't journal enough today. A minute of meditation is better than 0 minutes. So I would say, in the simplest form, whatever is a sustainable amount for you to practice, because you can compound on that. But if you don't do anything and you say, well, I'll do it when I feel like I can do a half hour, I'll do it when I feel like I can do 45 minutes, that day just might never come.
Okay. So
Wow.
it's kind of like eliminating the procrastination aspect of it. You
Yeah.
don't want to be procrastinating because you're just wasting time at that point. And if you keep procrastinating time and time again, you just put yourself in like decision paralysis.
It's that, and you start to break self-trust with yourself.
Yeah.
Well, last time I said I was going to do it, I didn't do it. So am I really going to do it this time? And then it doesn't even become an option anymore. It's okay. Last time I said I wasn't going to do it and I didn't do it. And then the last time after that, I didn't even try to do it because I knew I couldn't. Honestly, this isn't for me. And then you start to identify as someone who doesn't journal. And then now you have to rebuild the whole habit and the identity, and you're back at square one. So if we think of like New Year's resolutions, I think one of the reasons New Year's resolutions are it's such a high failure rate is you're trying to condense a year goal into right now. Well, I'm going to lose 75 pounds this year. A better goal might be I'm going to go to the gym one time this week. And then I'm going to try to go to the gym one time next week. And then I'm going to try to go 2 times, and then 2 times, and then 3 times. I think people would probably be more successful with that approach, even though it's not sexy. It's not going to look good on a billboard, but I do think it will lead to actual results.
You want
those muscles will be sexy, though.
Those muscles will be sexy. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's like lowering the expectations on yourself so that you don't set the bar so high that when you fail, you just become because people can be really toxic towards themselves, especially when they fail. Like they can be super harsh, and this can play on their mindset and the way they're thinking, and it just pushes all these negative thoughts into your head, which make you think and doubt that of your capabilities.
Yeah. Confidence. I used to think confidence was your belief in your ability to do something. And I do think that's it in a piece of it. I think real confidence is your belief in your ability to do something after you just lost. When you're winning 74-0, it's real easy to be confident. But when you just threw an interception that got returned for a touchdown and you're getting ready to drive down the field again, and if you don't score, you lose, that is real high level confidence. So it's ultimately, if you set very small goals, are you potentially limiting your short-term success? Yes. But you're also limiting the distance you'll fall if you don't succeed. And I think that might be even more important. It's more important than I ever realized. I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
Kevin, you're the habit man. You guys do habits. Every single day you're doing 1 minute of this, 1 minute meditation, 1 minute brushing your teeth, 1 minute moisturizing, 1 minute sunscreen, 1 minute this, 1 minute that. It drives me crazy, to be honest. No, it's because, you're right. And I believe in compound interest, and I believe you become your habits. And, this podcast success is due to compound interest, doing it a bit every single day.
Yeah.
But man, once you think about it, it's like, once you have so many things you're doing every single day, it's a lot. It adds up to a lot. Every day I'm like doing Duolingo, and my Spanish has gotten way better over the years I've been doing it, like way better. But every single day I have to do it. It's one of those things. So I don't know. How do you pick and choose what to add to your routine?
It depends on the ultimate goal broken down to this quarter, this year. Really, it's okay. What's the number one thing you want to accomplish? Like the big thing. For me, it's I want to be the best podcaster humanly possible. Okay, well, what do we have to do? I probably should be speaking every day. What's one way to do that? Podcast every day. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, it was much harder because I've never journaled before, so I need to see what that actually does for me. So I need to journal every day. I've never tracked my finances before, so I got to do that every day and see what that feels like. I'm going to connect with somebody in the community every day because we're trying to build this thing. And then over time, I don't meditate as much as I used to. It's not on my system. I don't meditate every day like I used to. I don't journal every day like I used to. I prospect for business every day, and I never did that in the very beginning. So I think it ultimately depends on what season are you in? Are the results you're getting what you want or not? Are you fulfilled? Are you burning down? Are you overwhelmed? I think it's very dependent on the person. We've had people who come on our team and they start out with like 12 habits, 3 under health, 3 under wealth, 3 under love, and they burn out. And then we drop that to like 6 or even 3. Cool. You weren't ready for 12 yet. That's totally fine. We had a team call last night and one of the team members said, I'm ready for more habits. I feel like everything's just kind of unconscious now. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So it ultimately depends on what are the short-term goals balanced with the long-term goals, and are you ultimately getting the results you want? If you pair all that with, are you actually fulfilled? I don't know about you guys. You might not be fulfilled doing a podcast episode every day. You seem like you love it, so you might actually, and that might be what you're doing this for. But I know people out there that shouldn't have my life. You wouldn't be fulfilled. You wouldn't be fulfilled getting up every day and then doing 12 meetings and then eating whatever I'm eating, chicken and rice, and then going to sleep because I'm so tired. It depends on the person. And I think that all starts with self-awareness.
Yeah, that is true. You have to be able to pay attention to how your body and your mind is feeling after doing all that work. And you want to also understand if like you actually enjoy this feeling. Like,
Yeah.
is this where I want to be? You question yourself, you ask yourself these questions. And then with time you find that answer through your actions. I kind of wanted to understand a bit more about how do you make habits stick? Because like obviously with consistency, you make that habit like an unconscious thing. But there are times in your life where you slip up and then you're no longer doing that habit because it's like you're resetting to default or something like that, like factory mode. So how do you get back into those habits and keep them consistent?
I would say, other than keep it super small and make it super easy, I would say you have to put in some level of commitment device. So there's a great example. I'm back at it in the gym. I'm exercising every day. I'm tracking calories, blah, blah, blah. 8 months ago, that was not the case. I was riding the struggle bus when it came to fitness because the business had grown and it was pretty much, I'm going to put the business over myself, as I know many business owners do, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to be consistent. I felt like I was letting myself down. I felt like I had broken the habit of exercising daily. So I went to my wife and I gave her, I said, I need you to do me a favor. And she said, okay, what do you need? And I said, I'm going to give you this $100 bill. And if I don't go to the gym for the next 7 days in a row, I need you to take this $100 bill and I need you to rip it up in front of me. And she said, Kev, there's no way. I'm not going to do that. And I said, babe, it's already done. The fact that I had the courage to put myself into this corner, I'm not going to not do it. It's one of those things where if I said to you, you have to do an episode every day for the next 30 days, or I'm going to take your car, or I'm going to take your house, or whatever it is.
Okay, I'll do it.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it. But I do know that a lot of us are afraid to put ourselves under a certain amount of pressure because we don't actually want to do the thing. For me, if I gave her $20, it might not have been enough. That's why I gave her $100. $20, like that's a lot of money. But I don't know if that would have been enough for me to do it for 7 days. 100 was. So I think we kind of have to, for lack of better phrasing, put our money or something we value where our mouths are. And we have to say, look, there has to be a bigger downside for me not building this habit again. Really good example. I don't know if Allan told you this. We're doing a 10-pound in 10-week challenge right now. So Allan and I are both going to lose 10 pounds in the next 10 weeks. I guarantee it. I'd bet you any amount of money. You want to know why? Because if I don't lose 10 pounds in the next 10 weeks, I have to miss a podcast episode. I've never missed a podcast episode. The pain of me not accomplishing that goal is so much greater than the pain of me going through what it takes to actually accomplish it. I won't miss. It's done. It's already done in my mind because I know I'll do whatever it takes. I think that we kind of have to put ourselves into a more uncomfortable corner than we would if we didn't do the thing, because humans avoid pain. We avoid pain way more than we seek. Well, I don't know, it depends, right? But we avoid pain at a very high level. And if there is a pain associated with you not accomplishing your goals, I'm willing to bet you're more likely to get your butt back into whatever it is you want to be doing.
So you built like kind of a set list of consequences that you might endure if you do not accomplish this goal.
Yep.
And the consequences take away something that you enjoy.
Yep. Yeah.
Interesting.
So for me, like there's big fights. I love UFC. I'm a huge mixed martial arts in general, but I love UFC. Huge fan.
Yeah.
Huge fan. Big fights this weekend. Let's say I wasn't getting my work done. I could say to someone close to me, hey, whatever you do, don't let me order the fights unless I get you X amount of emails or whatever it is. You want to talk about motivated? I don't want to miss the fights. This could be one of my favorite fighters' last fights. I don't want to miss that, right? I might regret that. I might regret that. And I think that's where it is. Are you going to regret not getting back in the gym and having insecurity when you go to the beach this year? Yes. But that is such a delayed regret. That might not happen for 8 months versus UFC is 3 days away. 3 days of regret versus 8 months of regret. It's almost too long to imagine what it'll feel like in that length of time. Because if we reversed it, the same things with success. If I told you you can be successful in 3 days or 8 months, which are you going to choose? I'm going to choose the 3 days. 8 months is a long ass time, right? So it's my thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Saeed, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay.
Okay. While you do your sneezing, I kind of want to know what Kevin is drinking, man. Because that
I'm just drinking electrolytes.
Okay.
I know it looks like radioactive pee, but I assure you
does.
that is not what it is.
Definitely does. I was like looking at it, I was like, what is this goo that's coming out in a jar? It's like,
Yeah, no. A little electrolytes.
Wait,
Awesome.
Saeed, I want to get into the meat. The meat. You know, it's like I remember you telling me the other day. You were like, I want to talk to Kev. I have some really important questions to ask him. Remember?
Yeah.
You were telling me this? Yeah. So now would be a perfect time to ask him these kinds of questions.
Let's do it.
Well, that was one of the questions about the habits. Like, because this is kind of like something that I was going through, which I think I've overstressed myself at work and I've kind of put myself in like factory mode. And I have a vacation now coming up for a month where I can just take a break and reflect on my future decisions. So, but in that period, I've kind of lost a bit of my routine, which was doing the gym. My eating is kind of getting a bit messed up in the last week, 2 weeks. But I know like I will be able to get back into it after I get my rest.
Yeah.
But
that's
the
a whole thing
consequences
too.
for it, yeah. Sorry,
that's
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's a whole thing too. Is when you're too far outside of your comfort zone, you're going to seek comfort.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like if you haven't eaten in a week, the last thing you're thinking about is I should really eat something healthy. It's more like I need something to eat. I haven't had this for a long period of time. When you're so outside of your comfort zone, you do revert to factory settings because you're trying to survive.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother conversation is you have to figure out 7 episodes a week for us is not hard. If that's all I did, if I only recorded 7 episodes a week, my life would be so easy. But in the beginning, I couldn't fathom doing 7 episodes a week. There's no way. I could barely do 1.
Yeah, it is a tough one.
Right? What used to be outside of my comfort zone is now unconscious. I don't even think about it. And then you expand that more, just like weights in the gym. You go in, you lift the 5-pound dumbbells, right? But when you go into the gym and you get under a weight that you can't handle, the last thing you're thinking about is mowing the lawn or what you're going to make for dinner. You're just thinking to yourself, I have to survive what I'm doing here, or none of that's going to matter. I think the comfort zone is another really important thing just to touch on, just because people tell you to get outside your comfort zone. They don't tell you how far to get outside your comfort zone. And if you go too far, it is destructive. Anxiety and overwhelm and negative feelings. Like if you go too far, you can really hurt yourself.
So to add a bit more information, I'm kind of like facing a major life decision of whether I should remain in the current country that I'm in, or maybe find a new country to start a new life there. And I kind of want to understand, when facing a major life decision and you're not sure what the answer is, it's not clear, things are a bit vague, and the stress is building up, so it kind of obscures the the thought process behind it.
Mm.
How do you get out of that? Like, what do you do that can, make the decision a bit more clear?
One simple one sounds dumb, sounds maybe the dumbest thing of all time. Flip a coin and have, if it lands on this, I'll do A. If it lands on this, I'll do B. And when the coin is up in the air, try to catch yourself with which one you hope it lands on. That's one, a very simple one. The second thing I do, I make a lot of pros and cons lists. So let's get clear on what are the actual things that we value. So I need to know, like, do I like where I live because of this? Do I not like where I live because of this? Would my life be better if I was closer to the ones I loved? Would my life be worse if I was closer to the ones I loved? Let me get very clear on all of the things that actually matter to me. And then I would sit down and make a pros and cons list. What are the pros of me staying here? What are the cons of me staying here? What are the pros of me moving to a new place? What are the cons of me moving to a new place? And then look at all those and kind of weigh out, are the pros that matter bigger than the cons that matter? And then vice versa. That would be the best piece of advice I would give. Transparently, I don't find myself in that situation that often because I don't do a lot of stuff. I just kind of podcast and I coach and stuff. Like, my life is very simple in terms of everything else. It's very complicated in the business. So that would be probably the best advice I would give. It's not something that I do super, super often, but I do love that you'll go to someone and say, okay, do you know what you want? And they'll say, no, I'm not really sure. It's like, all right, cool. If it lands on heads, you're going to do A. If it lands on tails, you're going to do B. Yeah. When you flip the coin, I think a lot of us start thinking, I really hope it lands on blank. Or when it does land on one side or the other, are you disappointed? Or are you excited?
I feel like I've actually tried the coin thing before. I haven't done that in a while. And I feel like it definitely helps in my current situation due to the fact that the decision is more of like a 50-50 thing than just listing out some pros and cons and then be like, okay, yeah, this one is just obviously better. But for me, I think it's more closer to a 50-50. And I kind of need to see which one I need to lean more to.
It's the answer I'd probably give you. It's super woo though, is like, you already know. You already know deep down somewhere inside of you. You just either don't have the courage to admit it yet, or you don't have the courage to admit it to someone else. Like, there's a part of you that knows. I believe that. I believe there's a part of you that knows. It's just about uncovering that part. And I think that's really what we're trying to do. Is it the coin? Is it pros and cons? Is it getting advice from someone else? What can we do to uncover it? Those are just the best two examples I would have.
Yeah, it's so freaky to have that.
Yeah, that advice was great. Thank you, Kevin.
Of course.
I will be using
It's like anything we do, there's so many parallel universes, it's like the butterfly effect. It's like Saeed could be living in London still, doing his thing. In 20 years, he could be a CEO of a London thing, going to London activities and stuff like that, watching soccer games. But he could also move to Taiwan, become a monk, really live into that. He could do anything. That's the thing. There's so many parallel universes. And that's one of the things that makes it, hard to act sometimes, is that you're kind of frozen because you're like, it's life. I'm deciding what I want to do for my life, but I don't know what's going to happen on the other side. You're kind of taking a leap of faith,
Yeah. But that's the thing is, life isn't like a parachute, or it's not like skydiving where you can decide in a month you want to do something different. Once you jump out of that plane, you're committed. You are completely committed. And I think, look, I'm a guy who I am not supposed to be where I am. Nobody would have bet, including myself, especially myself, that I would be here. I've quit almost every job I've ever had in not always great ways. And I had no idea what I wanted to do until I started podcasting. And when I started podcasting, I fell in love with it. I was 26. I was 26 or 27 when I started. I had no idea what I wanted to do up until that point. And if you asked me at that age, what advice would you give to someone? I don't even know what I would tell you. Chase money? That's probably what I would have said. Find something super profitable that you can handle and do it. Now it's completely different. It's try a bunch of stuff and see what lands. Try a bunch of stuff and see where you lose yourself. Try a bunch of stuff. And if you get to the place where you say, if I could do this for a living, if only I could find a way to make this profitable, wow, my life would be awesome. If you can turn your life into that, you're going to be super fulfilled. But that it also, to your point, it's scary. It's scary to do that. That is true. Super scary.
Kevin, someone once told me, and this person is a psychologist. She told me that life coaches are failed psychologists. What? And I was like, when she said that, I was like really thinking about that. I was like, I don't know. Like there's some point to it, but at the same time, they do have an impact. So what would you say to this person?
You're so rude, Said. That's what I'm saying to you.
It's a great question. I've been asked that before.
I'm just paraphrasing. I promise.
No, you're good. You're good. First of all, I don't know if I'd ever consider myself a life coach. I don't know if I've ever even put that on paper. Yeah. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I am primarily a podcast coach now. I coach like 50 people monthly on their podcast. So I don't even do like peak performance coaching anymore. But what I would say is I think they have a point. Yeah, I think the lower the barrier to entry for something, the higher the failure / non-professionalism. So it's pretty easy to start a podcast and then just say like, I can coach you on blank. Super easy. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't need any certifications. It costs you very little dollars. So naturally, you're going to get a lot of people that do it and don't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't disagree. I don't think that's out of pocket or not accurate. I think it's fair. I think it's a fair criticism. Yeah, just like this is the other interesting thing. One of my buddies he's in real estate. I don't know the odds off the top of my head, but it's something like 50% of real estate agents never do a deal. Something like that.
Wow.
Again, don't quote me on that. Like, don't make that the clip because I can't guarantee that's what it is. But it's just another example of, I'm sure you've met a lot of people who said, yeah, I'm a real estate agent, but they've never done a deal. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, are you really? I don't know. I mean, you know more about real estate than I do, for sure. Even that, like, am I at the level of a psychologist? No, because I haven't gone to school for X amount of years. Do I know a lot about people? 100%. Yeah, 100%. Mostly because I've done so much work on myself. Can I prescribe medications and that stuff? Definitely not. Would I ever try? Definitely not. But I do know a lot about the way people operate, just not from a textbook. And I would never trust myself enough to open up a practice based on that.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate your non-defensive reaction. Like you took it on the chin and just like responded professionally. And this is what would a proper life coach do. And secondly, damn, what was my point? Ali, do you have a point to make? Because I
had a point to make about like structure too. I was reading this book by Allan who said that the way we learn piano in the West is different than you learn piano in the East. In the West, you go to classes, you take schools, you learn things, you learn the scales, you learn the notes. Versus in the East, what they end up doing is they give you a piano and they say play. And you just learn how to play by playing it. And every single day, you just figure it out. So I'm kind of caught in between these two dichotomies and everything in life. This podcast, was a great example of it, in that me and Said have really gotten creative with it and shaped it to be our own thing. And we're not totally familiar with other podcasts. They're, what they do, but we kind of do our own thing. and I love it. But I don't know if it would benefit from more structure. You know, what do you think about that?
Do you identify as a creative?
I would say so.
I'd say there's two sides. And you asked earlier, Allan and I'm a creative.
Mm-hmm.
I've titled every single one of our podcast episodes. I've come up with 98% of what we're going to talk about. I'm the storyteller when we do our presentations. I'm the creative. I needed more structure. It. Allan is the most structured human ever. Allan needs to go for a walk every once in a while. You know what I mean? Like, Allan, you need to get outside, brother. Like, let's get some sunlight flowing.
Touch some grass.
Yeah, exactly. Just touch the grass. That's it. We're really good examples of that. Like, I was super, super creative. I love rapping. I love just creativity. I love it. Putting words together, podcast titles. One of the reasons I love podcasting so much and coming on with two amazing humans like you is I don't know what you're going to ask me. And I get to be creative with my answers. You just asked me something that nobody really has asked me. So it's like, all right, cool. This is going to be fun. So I think it's usually if what you needed was what you wanted, you would already have it. And it tends to be the opposite side of the spectrum is probably worth visiting to at least see what the unique benefits are. There are some people who are super, super, super consistent and hard-nosed and externally successful. They could probably use some spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
They could probably use some Allan Watts.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who are all law of attraction, Allan Watts, untethered soul, that could probably use some compound effect to ultimately drive to the middle. I don't know if living on either polarity is going to facilitate a well-rounded human. So I think, my answer in the simplest form would be, I think it's worth experimenting in seeing the results you get, because sometimes doing something you don't like is going to help you become the version of you that you aspire to be.
Right. Wow.
Interesting.
Okay, I'll do that. Sounds good, Kevin.
You don't have to do anything. We could get off here. You could delete this and say F what he said. Like, I'd still love you both, you know?
Ali, what's your opinion on structure then? What kind of structure do you think is needed?
For the pod or just my life, or what do you mean, Sign? Any more specificity?
Let's start with the pod. Yeah.
Sorry,
I was a bit vague with that. I apologize.
No, with the pod, I don't know. I've just always been curious as to how other podcasts really structure their podcasts. We've been we've done over 500 podcasts, interviewing for over 500 guests. You know, we mostly interview guests, and we find our own groove in it. But I'm aware there's tons of other people who do podcasts, and I'll watch other podcasts when I'm researching guests, and so every podcast is different. But I'm curious more about the behind the scenes of each podcast and how that works, and if there's anything I can take from that to improve our podcast.
Well, you've got a podcast host in front of you.
I was going to say, I'm happy.
Behind the scenes.
The reason I answer it the way I did is because very similar. Allan and I have had times where it was, all right, this is what the episode's going to be on. Mm-hmm. This is my hook. This is my story. This is my lesson. This is my future pace. This is my challenge. And this is my call to action. And I'm going to go through all of those in real time. And that's how the episode's going to go. Now, we did an episode yesterday that dropped today. Probably my favorite episode we've ever done. And it was, dude, you know what I want to talk about? I really want to talk about how some of the people closest to us that we are supposed to love and supposed to listen to are actually the people we shouldn't. Let's do an episode on that and see what happens. And it was my favorite episode ever because it was real. It was such a real, vulnerable, authentic conversation. And that's what lights me up. So we've had too much structure and we've had not enough structure. One time, Allan and I were recording in his mom's basement. I showed up, I smoked my THC pen, and I was like, dude, let's talk about relationships. neither of us had a relationship. We shouldn't have been talking about relationships. So that's too much. That's too much freestyle, you know? So that's the advice I'd give. Don't do that.
What
Maybe
advice
after
do you
smoking
have?
a THC pen, you should do the opposite of what your mind is telling you.
Most likely.
If you want to talk about relationships, talk about being single.
That's a good point. Say that's a good point.
What advice do you have about relationships now? So you're a married man now. What's it like for you to be, super structured, being a hardworking guy? We asked Allan this question too, and then Allan gave us definitely a wild answer. When you say Saeed, yeah, exactly. But
100%, yeah.
I'm curious if about your take on relationships. Having a partner.
Yeah.
How can you be a very successful person, but then also make time to accommodate your relationship?
Prepare to be stressed out and overwhelmed, because by definition, I'm with you two right now. I can't be with my wife unless my wife is podcasting with me, right? That'd be cool, but it wouldn't be the same. I don't think there's any such thing as no sacrifice. I think that's a perspective that people are trying to get to, and I'm not that transcendental yet. I'm not there. I'm not that transcendent where I'm there. I would say this is my best example. Would you want your best friend to date someone like you? If the answer is no, you're probably not a very good partner. Would you want your son or daughter, if you have a son or daughter, to date someone like you? If not, you're probably not that great of a partner. Because when you take yourself out of it and you think, would I want someone that I care about deeply to date someone like me? If the answer is yes, I would say you're probably doing something really good. But if the answer is no, I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of room for improvement. So that would be one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, you're not going to like this, Ali. Don't be afraid to systematize and build habits around your relationship. And the only reason I say that is my wife and I play the gratitude game. So we go to bed at night. We say something we're grateful for about one another. Allan, I think, says 3 things because he always does more than I do. It's just the way. It's just the way it goes.
He just has to one up everyone.
Right? But I had a moment one time where I was lying in bed, and my wife and I hadn't been doing check-ins. Every Sunday we used to do a check-in. Like, how's everything going? Are your needs getting met? Or my needs? And we just kept missing them. And I had a moment where I said, oh my God, this is why relationships fail. Relationships fail because we stop doing the things that actually brought us success in the beginning. It's not always because you have a huge fight and then you can never reconcile. It's just like everything else where things strip away little by little by little by little. It's just the drop on concrete that eventually goes through. So I would say don't be afraid to systematize things, because when you're a reactive human being and life is happening, it is super easy to miss date nights. It's super easy to not connect. It's super easy to fall into watching Netflix. I'm guilty of all those things. But if you have a system where every night we do this before bed, no matter what, and we hold each other accountable, every Sunday, no matter what, we do this, even though it's going to suck, even though it's easier to watch Netflix, our future selves will thank us. That is something that I think is worth doing for sure. And I think the last thing would be, when you work on yourself, the relationship can really only be as good as the people in it.
Yeah.
This podcast will only be as good as you two are.
That is true.
That's true.
That's just the way it works.
We have to invest in ourselves.
100%. If you're not putting work into yourself, it's really hypocritical to look at your partner and be frustrated that they're not doing it. Because you got to do it too. They could put in all the work, and if you're not putting in any work, it's not going to get better, and vice versa. So just be very, very honest with how you're showing up, how you're treating the person. I think delusion is one of the biggest reasons relationships fail, because they convince themselves that, oh, I'm doing great, and my partner's not meeting certain needs, so I shouldn't meet certain needs. And I just don't think, I think that's a selfish way to approach it.
That's That's a very good point, and I like the system that you guys have, which is for the check-ins, because it's like you guys are holding each other accountable for the mistakes that do happen, and then you guys can like communicate about it, talk about it, and say it's like, okay, I don't really feel comfortable around what happened in this specific day or this specific event, and then you can talk about how to like reconcile it or move forward from it.
Yeah,
which is amazing. This is something that a lot of relationships probably lack.
It's taking something that normally is reactive and making it proactive. It's just, if you know at the end of the week you're going to get a chance to express your truth, it makes life a little bit easier, but it's also very challenging. One of the hardest check-ins I ever did, Allan and I were hosting an event, and this event took, we're doing 7 episodes a week, coaching, and we're trying to figure out how to do this event thing. And I just wasn't super present. I was fighting to just get through every day. And my wife and I, the first check-in we did after that, I said on a scale of 1 to 10, how cared for, how supported, how looked after, how much do you think I valued you? Like, how valued did you feel? And she gave me a 3 out of 10. And I remember thinking, oh, I failed. I have failed so terribly. And the truth is, I didn't do as good a job as I needed to do. But I'd rather get that truth then than just push it under the rug. Feedback is non-negotiable. You either get feedback little by little along the way, or you get it all at once at the end. So that would be another thing that I would just tie to that is, and I'm working on this, I'm not good at giving feedback. I tend to be pretty good at receiving feedback because I know I need to get better at everything forever. So it's easier, I think. I'm not good at giving feedback. So that's something I'm really trying to work on because I understand you need that. You need feedback for course correction. So that'd be something else I'd probably attach to it.
Just don't be afraid of being communicative and honest. Like, Saeed, I have no frustrations with you. I just want you to think about your deep question that you want to ask Kevin, right? Remember we talked about this? You want to ask Kevin a deep question? Hold, because I have a question too. But think about it. Remunerate. Then I had a question about coaching your friends. There you go. That was
oh boy.
So you're a coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're watching a UFC game with your friend and then you see your friend do something stupid, do you coach him? What's the difference between being a coach and a friend?
When you're a coach, somebody tells you what the result that they want, and then they pay you to help them get the result that they want. When you're a friend, it's your job to make sure that you only give the amount of truth that you have the permission to give. That's always, you cannot give advice or truth beyond the level of the relationship you have with someone. So if I showed up here today and I just crapped on both of you, just absolutely crapped on both of you, I don't have the permission to do that. We're not that close. We're not tight like that. Yeah. And Saeed, I think that's why when you ask the question about the psychologist thing, some people might not have reacted the same way because honestly, they might say, well, you don't have permission to ask me a question like that. I feel called out. I don't know what to say. That's all it is. It's, do you have the level of connection with someone to give them or ask of them that level of truth? The other thing too is I understand most of my friends don't want the results I want. You don't have to track habits like I do. You don't have to go to the gym every day like I do. You don't want what I want. Now, if a friend comes to me about advice, this happened recently about relationship advice, I was given the opportunity to put on the coaching hat. Based on what you've learned and what you've experienced, what do you think I should do? Ooh, that's different. You're asking me to help you solve a problem. That's different. You're asking for feedback. So I would say that's the biggest difference. And that's something that I've learned a lot from Allan, because Allan has pushed a lot of people away, unfortunately, because he tried to coach them, not because he wanted them to be different, because he thought they wanted something that they didn't ultimately want. And it breaks the relationship when I try to tell you you should be doing something when you don't believe you should be.
Wow. I like that answer.
I appreciate it.
That is really good. Ali, I know you think that I'm trying to not ask the question, but I personally have actually forgotten what it was. I remember it was something about systems and operations. So if you could jog my memory, that would be amazing.
Okay, let me jog your memory. You were thinking about you said I need more systems in my life. That's what you said.
Yes.
Oh man, did you ask Allan?
Exactly. That's why I'm.
I feel like you're asking the wrong guy. You're asking the wrong guy. If you want to talk about like overcoming a porn addiction, like I can talk about that very openly and honestly. But when it comes to the systems, I think honestly, I think this is part of being me and being a person. I'm really good at operating.
Yeah.
But all of the systems I run have been created by Allan.
Well, this can actually probably be a good we can actually ask you this question because
Let's do it.
You've been watching Allan make these systems.
Yeah.
And you've been benefiting from these systems. So in a sense, the same kind of applies for me to ask this question. What is the usage of systems and how do you apply these systems? How do you create a system for yourself?
I call Allan and I say, "Hey, brother, I'm struggling with this." Ultimately, it's
okay.
like,
So how does he create the system then? Like, what's the process?
Saeed, if I could give you that answer, there'd be a lot of things I'd be able to solve. He doesn't know. If you asked him, he doesn't know. Like I don't know.
Happens.
It's an equation in his head. I'll ask him sometimes, like, how do you know? And he's like, brr, brr, I don't know how to explain it. I was always really good at predicting whether or not relationships would fail or succeed.
Yeah.
And you would say, how do you know? And I'd say, I don't know. I can just tell.
Okay.
It's just because I haven't unpacked. Now I know it's because if I ever see somebody publicly disrespect their partner, I know it's happening way more behind the scenes. And if the partner who's being disrespected works on their self-worth and their self-esteem, they're going to get to a place where that's below their acceptable standard, and then they're going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But that took me years and years and years of people asking me, how do you think you knew? And it was like, oh, that makes sense. People have just started recently asking Allan, how do you know that's the best? Because in the past, people didn't believe him because he didn't have the results to suggest that he actually knows what he's talking about, which has been a very interesting thing. So I don't know. I don't know if I could give you a valuable answer based on the fact that I'm a really consistent human when I'm told what to do. I do really well. When I was a bodybuilder, my coach told me exactly what to eat, how many times a day, how many sets to do, how many reps to do, how much cardio to do, and I crushed it. I probably could have created a system, but not as good as that.
Wow. I like that.
Well, thank you for that answer. I appreciate your honesty as well.
I got to keep it real. There's things I do and there's things that I don't do. And I try never to speak on something that I don't think I can actually add a measurable amount of value to, or I haven't done enough research to effectively speak on.
Yeah.
Okay. So Saeed, sorry, I gave you your chance to ask. You asked it, but it's okay.
Okay.
So my turn. I want to ask you about your lowest moment. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, Saeed. You're a great friend and everything too, and co-host.
Oh no, I'll take it to heart. Don't worry. I'll talk to you about it later.
It's not personal. Your lowest moment, your highest moment. What have you learned from both?
Man, lowest moment, sitting on the edge of a bed contemplating suicide. Had everything had achieved everything I could ever have wanted, had all the results, but internally it was just miserable. The biggest lesson from that was you cannot achieve away your problems. Your problems will chase you for as long as you let them. It's not about gaining more things. It's about losing the dead weight of the problems and going back to where those problems came from in the first place. That has been just, it's not about the next car isn't going to make me feel any different. It's not. It just doesn't. It doesn't matter. The next $1 million, nah, it helps some things, but it doesn't help the internal stuff. So that has been very, very impactful for me. Highest point, man. Highest point was probably recently in terms of like overall success. We crossed 1 million listens and $1 million earned in the business on the same day, which was just wild. It didn't really matter as much as I thought it would, because it's not like we went from 0 to 1 million. We went from 990,000 to 991,000 to 1 million. So by the time we got to 1 million, it already felt like we were there, and it didn't really matter because it is just a byproduct of the bigger goal. Like, this episode matters to you guys right now, but it only matters right now because you're going to do another one tomorrow and then another one after that. You didn't start this to interview me. You started this to get to a place much greater than that, I hope.
Yeah.
And this is just hopefully a unique byproduct of that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have so many amazing successes on the way, but I don't know if any of them really are going to matter as much as you think, because you're doing it for a different reason. So I would say that's probably the biggest lesson from the high point. And the last thing I would say on that is I've changed way more than I thought I would have to change to get the results that I wanted. And that, I'm super proud of that. I'm proud of all the changes that I have made over the last 7 years to get here. It's a big lesson for me.
Wow.
What's great that
And
you're
what's the
actually
lesson for
learning
you,
as well.
Saeed?
Ali, sorry, what? What was the question?
Oh, sorry. What did you learn from this episode?
Well, I learned quite a lot. I learned that you don't need a degree to actually understand things in life, to know how people operate, how to run a business. It's because even with all these theories in your head, it comes down to practice, right? And Kevin, you're a very consistent person. You've had a lot of practice. And from your insight, we've definitely learned that it doesn't stop at just, having the title or having the degree. It also comes down to what your actions are. And thank you so much for sharing all of your insights about that and your knowledge.
Of course.
Now, obviously, Allan has made the shout out before, but if you can do it again, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? That would be great.
Yeah, just search, after you listen to these fine gentlemen's podcasts, go search Next Level University. We're on all the podcast platforms. We're on YouTube. We do an episode every single day, so you will either love us or get sick of us very quickly, depending on your perspective. I'd say that's the best place. It's free, it's consistent, and you'll learn a lot about us there.
Any final words?
From me?
Yes.
I would say my favorite quote: "Your reality becomes the parts of your imagination that you hold onto and pour into the longest." 1,710 episodes ago, I recorded an episode where I said, I want to wake up when I want, go to bed when I want, podcast with amazing people, much like yourself, go to the gym when I want, spend time with the ones I love, and be my own boss. And here we are, 7 years and 1,700 episodes later, and that's what I get to do every day. But that is the thing that I have been focused on and obsessed with more than anything else. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it has become reality.
Thank you, Kevin, so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
It's been great having you on A to the show. Ali, enjoy your flight. Have a safe flight. Guys,
Thank you for subscribing.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And you know how we end this show. Salute to cover the camera. Peace.
Howdy.